Let's take a look at the self-proclaimed Republic of Nagorno-Karabakh. It has ceased to exist as of January 1st. Now, the Armenian majority territory was located in Azerbaijan, which never recognized the breakaway region and defeated its military in a one-day war last September. About 100,000 people fled, and the self-styled republic's leaders signed an agreement to dissolve Nagorno-Karabakh in 2024. But he's recently backtracked on that decision, yet Azerbaijan has absorbed the territory nonetheless.
A new era begins for this former self-styled republic. After decades of conflict, Nagorno-Karabakh is now fully under the governance of Azerbaijan. The mountainous enclave in the South Caucasus lies within Azerbaijan. It has long been internationally recognized as belonging to Azerbaijan, but since 1991, much of it was governed by ethnic Armenian separatists, who claimed it was a de facto independent state that they called the Republic of Artsakh. It took less than 24 hours for Baku to seize Nagorno-Karabakh with a military offensive on September 19, 2023. The separatist leaders surrendered and agreed to a ceasefire, which was brokered by Russia. The takeover caused the majority of Nagorno-Karabakh's largest population of ethnic Armenians to flee to the borders, leaving their homes behind them and carrying as many possessions as possible. Most of them are now living as refugees, with no immediate plans to return to their homes. Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev says that they will have equal security and rights if they choose to return. But after decades of violence, there is little trust among the Armenians for promises from Baku. Tensions between Azerbaijan and Armenia over Nagorno-Karabakh date back over a century. Within the last 30 years, they have fought 2 wars over it. In the first war, which ended in 1994, the Armenian side took control of Nagorno-Karabakh and 7 other districts. After a short war in 2020, Azerbaijan took back those districts and a third of Nagorno-Karabakh with the help of Turkish weaponry. Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan was quick to travel to Azerbaijan following its recent victory last September to congratulate Aliyev. While allies and descendants of the Armenians protested the takeover in several countries. Nagorno-Karabakh is now part of Azerbaijani territory. It is largely devoid of people following the takeover, and Azerbaijan's plans for the region are still unclear. Azerbaijan says it sees no obstacles to a lasting peace treaty with its neighbour Armenia. But this won't be enough to dissolve the distrust and hatred felt by the tens of thousands of Nagorno-Karabakh's Armenians, who are still displaced from a place they called home.
Let's cross over to DW's Moscow bureau chief Yuri Resheto. He's now based in the Latvian capital Riga after the Russian government banned DW from reporting in Russia. Yuri, good to see you. The self-proclaimed Republic of Nagorno-Karabakh now officially dissolved, but it feels significant that the former separatist leader is now saying that this dissolution is not valid. Why is he saying that, and what are the consequences of such a statement?
I think this announcement will probably have no consequences so far, because the so-called ceasefire, which had been obviously brokered by Russia after the short one-day war, this ceasefire was actually the surrender of the Nagorno-Karabakh army. The army of Nagorno-Karabakh couldn't offer any resistance to the much stronger army of Azerbaijan, which, by the way, was supported by Turkey. They had no choice but to surrender. And what should the former separatists do now? The Armenian refugees from Nagorno-Karabakh are living their new lives in Armenia. We don't know why the separatist leader said that. I suspect that the pressure on him is great and the accusation is heavy that he essentially gave Nagorno-Karabakh to the Azerbaijanis. Perhaps that is the reason for this comment. But it doesn't change the fact that Armenian Nagorno-Karabakh no longer physically exists.
And tell us more about the refugees that had to flee to Armenia. I understand that you've been there and met with some of them.
Yes, I was in Armenia at the end of November and I spoke to several refugees, and since then I've been in touch with them. They all were not only shocked by their forced mass exodus, but also completely disoriented and unsure of what the future would bring them. Although for many of them it was not the first escape, most of them always came back in previous times and continued to live in Nagorno-Karabakh. This time, however, the feeling of having finally lost one's homeland was very difficult. Home is also culture, roots and all family graves. Now many people told me that they will never see any of this again, but there are also economic aspects. The 120,000 people cannot find a new job overnight, and Armenia is not a rich industrial country. Many are in debt to Armenian banks because they built their houses in Nagorno-Karabakh. They now don't know how to pay. This is all leads to frustration and may have also motivated the separatist leader to take a step back and cancel the dissolution of the region.
And you're just taking a step back to look at the bigger geopolitical situation here. With Azerbaijan taking control of the area, does this look like the end of the conflict? And are there any real prospects for peace in the region?
Well, the peace agreement has been prepared and should have been signed by the end of the year, but this didn't happen. The two neighbors said in December they would move towards normalizing relations and exchange prisoners, for example. But both countries have two big protecting powers in the region, at least officially. Russia is still considered the protector of Armenia, but Moscow and Yerevan belong to a military alliance made up of Soviet states, and there are still Russian peacekeepers stationed in Armenia. Russia has long been on the side of Azerbaijan now, rather, which in turn cooperates closely with Turkey. For Moscow, geopolitical cooperation with NATO country Turkey seems more important than with Armenia.
Well, thank you so much for that. That's DW's Bureau Chief Yuri Reshetto. We very much appreciate it.